Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the Environmental Management webinar. So my name is Lucy Welch. I'm a Student Enquiries Advisor, so you may recognise my name if we've spoken over the phone or via email before. So as an attendee, your mics and videos have been disabled, so you'll just need to use the chat function to interact throughout the presentation. And whilst we do welcome questions, we do think to get the most out of the presentation, you wait to ask your questions until the end. You can submit your questions via the Q&A section. However, we will also be monitoring the chat section as well. So just to give you a bit more information about the Q&A section, it should be on the right-hand side of your screen. You can either ask a question, or if you see a question that you think is particularly relevant to you and you'd like to be answered more imminently, then you can upvote that question and that will jump to the top of the queue to be answered by Dr. Nigel Whitby. And so we'll be sending out a recording of the webinar in a few days' time. And I'd also like to bring your attention to the handout in the handout section, also on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have any questions about scholarships or funding or things like accommodation, all of the links and a bit more information will be on that handout, so do take a look. So with that said, I'll hand over to Dr. Nigel Whitby.
Okay, it's on now. Hello, my name's Nigel Whitby. Welcome to the University of Stirling, and I'm just going to talk you through a little bit about the Environmental Management MSc. This is Stirling. Stirling is situated in the middle of the central belt of Scotland, for those of you that don't know. That's where most of the people in Scotland live, and here we have a few views of Stirling itself. It's a historic city. Probably most of the films you've seen about the history of Scotland and some of the historic happenings in Scotland have at some point featured scenes from Stirling. So even if you don't know it, you've probably seen bits of Stirling before. So what about the University of Stirling? So we've got about 14,000 students, about 10,000 undergraduates, 4,000 postgraduates, 1,500 staff, and despite the relatively small size of this university, we've got over 120 different nationalities represented on the campus, a fifth of our students coming from overseas. So in terms of some of our various different accolades, those statistics there should probably be of interest to you. So we're ranked third in Scotland for overall satisfaction, particularly welcoming, our first place ranking there in terms of welcoming international students, first in Scotland and the UK for our campus environment. Also for the quality of our lecturers and our performance feedback, and indeed also in terms of our sports facilities, which are also reckoned to be second in the UK in terms of their quality. So thinking about the campus itself, and actually the view out of my office window today looks remarkably like those photographs that you can see there. So I'm looking at a nice green scene with a lake and hills behind it and a sparkling blue sky. And there are some examples of our recently rebuilt or refurbished halls of residence in the background there. And yeah, overall, it's an extremely pleasant sight at this time of year. So what about life in Stirling? So Stirling is a city in the central belt of Scotland. As I mentioned, it's got a population of about 50,000 people, safe safe city, fairly vibrant life. Accommodation is pretty affordable compared to life in either Glasgow or Edinburgh, for example. Student-centred culture in terms of Stirling itself. City experience with multiple shops, cafe-type culture, various performing arts facilities, and student nightlife to suit. And overall, I think most people would say it had a fairly warm, friendly community sort of feel, and it's easy to get around Stirling. The transport system is very good, and the university is very accessible. We are about 40 minutes from Edinburgh Airport and just under an hour from Glasgow Airport, and Stirling has a good train service, and it's easy to get to the centre of Edinburgh or Glasgow if you need to. So how much does it cost for you to live here on average? Well, those are a range of sorts of amounts you could expect to spend on accommodation and various other living expenses, including local transport, food, entertainment, and so on. So depending on where you live and what sort of lifestyle you live, you might expect to spend from about £8,500 to £10,500 per year to support yourself, and that's based on letting a room in a postgraduate hall of residence here on a 50-week let. Yeah, and those expenses are probably somewhat lower than you would expect to spend in some other Scottish universities like Glasgow and Edinburgh and St Andrews, for example. In terms of the university facilities, so we have a recently refurbished library, which we are extremely proud of, and you can see there that we have bright modern facilities. The library is typically open 12 hours a day. The study zones within the library are open 24/7 most of the year, and during exam periods the library itself is open 24/7, and there is a series of group and private study rooms. In terms of our virtual learning environment, we use a system called Canvas, which provides online access to all the sorts of materials that we are using in lectures and seminars and so on, and is a kind of environment in which students can interact with one another and indeed with staff. And that's where we store our lecture slides, recordings of lectures, notes, reading materials, feedback, where coursework gets submitted and marked electronically, and so on. In terms of facilities more specific to environmental management, the MSc itself, here we see students in a variety of environments, in the field, in a lab, and setting up an automatic water sampler there on the right hand side. So as you might expect in a environmental sciences type department, we spend a lot of time doing field work, and we have very well equipped field store with all sorts of modern type of equipment that you might expect to have access to. And also one of the beauties of a particular campus like the one that we live on here, we have, of course, access to some very good facilities right out of our door for undertaking and training in fieldwork. On top of those, we also have some residential field courses, which I will talk about shortly. So within the MSc in environmental management, you can work towards this kind of a core master's degree, the MSc in environmental management, which is our kind of a umbrella program, or you can opt to specialize in one of these different pathways of study. So these are exit pathways, so you can have environmental management with conservation, with energy, or a new exit pathway that we've introduced from this year in informatics, which is taught collaboratively with computing science and maths. So just talking about the modules and the modular structure and the choice of modules. So our modules represent 20 credits worth of effort, and you choose 3 modules in each of the 2 first semesters, the taught semesters, before you move on to a dissertation. So in the first semester, students from all of the different pathways choose from these modules on the left-hand column there: analysis of environmental data, environmental policy and management, environmental economics, or field techniques. And then in the spring, semester 2, the choice is a bit larger and allows you to specialize more towards the pathway that you're most interested in. So in the exit pathway for conservation, the same 3 modules to be chosen from a possible 4 in the autumn on the left there. And in the spring, you choose from a tropical ecology and conservation field course to Gabon in Central Africa, environmental impact assessment, environmental geomatics, environmental law, or biodiversity and ecosystem services. If you are more interested in the energy pathway, and quite a lot of our students are taking this pathway at the moment, the same choice from those modules on the left, and something more specialized towards the requirements of working in the environment and energy industry on the right hand side there. So environmental impact assessment, again, environmental geomatics, environmental law, environmental impacts of energy production, and energy management and sustainability in practice. And some of those modules are taught jointly with the Department of Economics here. For our dissertations, we have basically students undertake a project over a period of 3 to 4 months, depending on exactly when they start. So our students this year are just kicking off on their dissertations, and basically you start collecting data in May, and these dissertations get submitted at the end of August. You have the opportunity to collaborate with an outside agency. So we have various arrangements with various statutory, voluntary, and private organisations who commission projects that students have the opportunity to take up and work side by side with a member of academic staff and with someone from that commissioning organisation. And basically, you choose a topic which is complementary to your pathway, your degree pathway, and the idea is that you develop a particular high competence in aspects of environmental management relative to your future employment. And the dissertation process allows you to become a more effective independent worker and to take independent decisions about the direction of that research. So just to give you a few examples there of some of the recent projects that have been carried out in this department. So one student looked at the challenges in assessing the visual impacts of wind turbines. One of my students this year is looking at how repairing vegetation in floodplains is affecting the performance of natural flood management measures for reducing downstream flooding. And last year we had a project looking at how wildflower planting in urban areas influenced pollinator abundance, so influenced the densities and composition of different bee species. These are just examples, and each year the staff in this particular department will post a list of the available dissertations, and there would probably be a list of somewhere in the order of about 150 to 200 projects from which students make their choices. Benefits of the course. So I guess if we ask our students each year why they came on this particular course, a lot of the time they will say it's because it's got an established pedigree, and that indeed is the case. We were established 30 years ago, and the quality of this program is widely recognized, and many of the 800 or so people that have taken this program in the past are now in middle or senior management in a variety of statutory environmental organisations in the UK and Europe and further afield. The department as a whole is involved with a lot of international projects around the world in countries as widely ranging as Malaysia, Botswana, Nigeria, Iceland, Norway, Greenland, Ukraine, Hungary, and China, to name a few. The programme covers ecological, economic, social, political, and legal aspects of environmental management. So we kind of cover really the breadth of what you need to know, and indeed what employers tell us that students need to know. We will teach you how to analyse, report and present environmental data through these different modules here, through analysis of environmental data and through geomatics, which covers the use of GIS and remote sensing. And in addition to these, you'll receive other training in quantitative, theoretical, analytical and practical skills, particularly practical skills that you would be expected to be able to use in the field. And again, this catalogue of different training opportunities that we provide for you is guided by consultation with different employers who say these are really the skills gaps in the market at the moment, and these are really the things that that master's programs need to address. So the course is taught primarily by staff within biological and environmental sciences, as I've already hinted. It's also taught by staff from other departments of the university, including economics and law. And as well as these, we invite professionals from a number of outside agencies to come and give guest lectures in a variety of our different modules. And within these modules, you will be assessed by coursework and examination, and that coursework might be as diverse as essays, policy briefs, individual presentations, group presentations, debates on topical environmental issues such as fracking or reducing poaching. And our exams are held in December and May. And in terms of your MSc dissertation projects, these are submitted in late August. So our class profile, typically we have a class of around 25 to 35 students in total. And that intake is very diverse. It includes students from all over the world with a variety of backgrounds, and these students typically come from Europe, India, Africa, USA, China, and so forth. And not only there are they geographically diverse, we also have students from a range of different age groups and educational backgrounds, as well as professionals returning to their studies. And this is one of the things that we find students see as a real attribute of this course, that they will be working alongside other people who are not necessarily just the same as them in terms of their backgrounds, but they might be also have primary training in things as diverse as journalism, politics, communication studies, as well as the more sort of conventional natural science backgrounds. So this is our class this year. So these are our 37 students that we have on the course, sitting halfway up Cairngorm at an altitude of about 1,000 meters in Cairngorms National Park as part of their field techniques course. And just thinking about the class this year, we've got about 10 different nationalities on our program this year. So this covers students from the United States, Canada, Nigeria, Kenya, Italy, where else? Japan, China, Germany, South Africa, Ireland. So yeah, it's a pretty eclectic mix of students. In terms of career paths for the MSc in environmental management, so here we see a variety of different future destinations of students. So I guess probably the first destination for a lot of students who do environmental management is as environmental consultants for companies like Jacobs and Halcrow in the UK and Europe. Other students sometimes work for a consultancy and then move on or move directly to become environmental protection officers or scientific advisors, for example, for different environment agencies or conservation bodies. They might also become environmental managers within local authorities, private companies, private water companies or charitable trusts there. And a proportion of our students also go on to study further postgraduate research and study for PhDs either here or elsewhere. For those students taking the conservation pathway, these are students who basically tend to find employment with a variety of organisations, including voluntary conservation bodies like Scottish Wildlife Trust, statutory conservation bodies like the Scottish Natural Heritage, or in England, Natural England. They work for other bodies like Keep Scotland Beautiful, major conservation NGOs like the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, either in the UK or for BirdLife International, the international partner of the RSPB, or for other companies with a strong conservation sector within the organisation, like Forest Research. Graduates from the environmental management degree with the specialisation in energy. These students at the moment are in demand, particularly by renewable energy companies or renewable energy consultancies and the major private energy companies that you see listed there, either to work for them directly or to support applications for wind and hydro schemes, which are which are very popular at the moment. In terms of the support we provide for students, so when students come here, they're all assigned a personal tutor, and they can refer to this tutor for advice on both academic and non-academic matters. In week one, we have a series of induction events for all students, taking them through how to survive life at the university, what facilities are available to them, and how they can access these, through to providing advice to them on how to deal with different coursework assignments, how to structure a good essay, particularly useful for those students on the course who maybe have been a few years out of university. All modules elect a module representative, and we also have a staff student consultative committee held twice per semester, at which our module reps meet together with staff to discuss and resolve any issues which students have raised about different modules. All the teaching staff have an open door policy, which students in the past particularly praise, and they praise the accessibility of staff and the ease with which they're available for communicating. We also have a student learning services, which specialises in progressing core skills for students. And to support students who need this, we also have pre-sessional and in-sessional support in English, which covers writing and reading and speaking as required. So just to finish with some examples of a couple of testimonials from students on the course in recent years. So this is Callum, who studied the MSc in environmental management last year, and he particularly liked the fact that the course was relevant to industry needs and the approachability of staff. And also he noted that having sort of taken this program, it had a positive impact on his rate of success in terms of getting interviews for job positions. And this is Hannah, who's from Nigeria, and Hannah is on the program this year, and she's commenting there on the fact that she chose Stirling because of the global relevance of the modules that we teach, and the fact that we have seminars held by visiting professionals and representatives from various external organisations like government agencies, which students particularly appreciate, and they really appreciate this contact with the outside world, and to see how other people have embarked and succeeded on their career paths. And the fact that there was a variety of information about assessments before semester even begins, which helps to plan time and so on. Okay, I think that's all I want to say to you. So I'm happy to take any questions and try and answer them for you. So if anyone has anything they'd like to raise, if you want to type messages there, I will try to answer them the best I can. But well, I can't see you or hear you, but I hope you've enjoyed that and found it informative. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a few questions coming in here. One person is asking about exams. So exams are in December and May. So yes, the December exams are for the autumn semester, and the May exams are for the spring semester. And yeah, we don't have any exams after that. So the dissertation itself, the research report, is based purely on a written report and poster presentation. So there are no exams for that. Then we have someone asking about, when do you need to decide which path to take for the second semester? So your choice of modules at the start of the second semester will pretty much dictate what exit pathway you decide to take. So you don't really need to decide that until about December time, when you will make the choice of your spring semester modules. And we allow people to do that mainly because we find that students need to experience a little bit of the variety that's available to them over the autumn before they actually make that decision, and they decide what they think they're most interested in and what is going to suit them in the future. Yes, the final semester is fully dedicated to your thesis work, so that's the period May to August. Yes, you're working entirely on your dissertation over that period. You can find information on Commonwealth Scholarships via that link which is posted there. If you just search for Stirling and scholarships, you'll find that link. So Commonwealth Scholarships, the deadline for applications for those has closed for this year. I know it's quite a competitive scheme, but yes, that is, we have students, a couple of students on the course each year who are funded via various international scholarships, including Commonwealth Scholarships. Do I have to choose my research topic, or I'll be given a topic to research on by my supervisor? So you can really do whatever you like, actually. You can choose one of the topics out of the 200 or so that are available to you, or if there's something that you're particularly interested in and that we feel is within the supervisory expertise of people in this department, then we will be happy for you to take your own research topic, particularly if it's something that's of particular relevance to your own country. Okay, let me see where else. Yeah, I just mentioned Commonwealth scholarships there. So you have to apply to the university to be nominated for one of these, and I know that that is quite competitive. I would have to check and get back to you on exactly when that opens and closes. I'm actually not the member of staff directly responsible for that in our department, but I will ask them to clarify that for you. I believe that the deadline for nomination is, it's something like February, I think, in advance of coming in the following September. What does a typical class schedule look like for a full-time student compared to a part-time student? So that would depend on which modules you choose. So the field techniques course in the autumn semester is taught largely on the basis of a 1-week residential field course with a few follow-up sessions held throughout the rest of the semester. The other modules are essentially classroom-based with some fieldwork trips, half-day field trips also associated with them. But typically you'd have a 3-hour classroom session for each module per week, followed up by various seminars or clinic sessions, particularly for modules like analysis of environmental data or geomatics, so that students can practice their skills with support from postdoctoral or PhD demonstrators to make sure that they are picking those up correctly. So I mean, as I say, it does depend which modules you choose, but I guess for full time, you'd be looking at being here on a full time basis, equivalent to about 3.5 days per week. If you add it all up together, it might be across a few more days than that. Part time, you would probably be looking at being here 2 days, kind of continuous, really. Results of the Commonwealth. Okay, thank you. Someone's just told me about Commonwealth Scholarship applications, which will be released in July. Please, I'm unable to view presentation of the class. I'm not sure quite what you mean there. So I will just wait for a few more minutes if anyone else has any questions they want to raise, or if they want some clarification, just in case I haven't fully answered their questions. Okay, we've got a question there about introductory sessions in week 1. So these aren't specific to particular modules. They're generic. They're basically designed to help you through the course as a whole. So that they're not kind of to help you with any particular module. So these range from social events through to how to use library and IT facilities here, through to how to correctly approach the writing of assessed pieces of work, through to class debates about priority questions in environmental management. So I think these are probably mainly on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I would have to check that. Yes, there is full access to computers in the library. I couldn't tell you how many freely accessible computers there are on the university campus, but it's a very large number. Yes, tuition fees can be paid in installments. Oh yes, there's a clarification there for you. Thank you. Do I have any recommendations for preparing for this program before the school year starts? Actually, to be honest, probably I would say keeping fully abreast of environmental media and news articles over the summer period, so that you are well informed of topical issues, rather than kind of plowing through textbooks, I would say would be a more useful thing to do. We do have a recommended course text for environmental impact assessment, but actually I would kind of say that really coming with a fairly open mind and expecting to work closely with your peers probably be more useful than spending a lot of time doing a lot of advanced reading. Really think about what you want to get from the course, and what your interests are, and where you'd like to see yourself in a year's time. I think a little sort of reflection on these sorts of things is probably ultimately more useful to you than fixing your mind too much with a lot of reading.